Hello, 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 one and all. Hello, therapy nerds. Hello, self-growth seekers. Hello, all of the therapists and counselors who want to be not just good at their craft, but be great, which I always suspect is all of you. Welcome to Therapy Skills, Therapist Skills, Therapist, Therapist Skills Training with Beth. It's great to see all of you here and any of you who are present. This is our fourth live episode. This is where we promise to teach you everything that you wish you had learned in graduate school and beyond. And it is also where we are creating a non-judgmental community where therapists get to learn and practice lots of skills and tools so that we are all up-leveling our clinical skills together in a non-judgmental space. So tonight's topic is landmines in session. It's how to turn dicey political and social topics into therapeutic gold. And it could not be more timely for most of us because most of us therapists and counselors are interfacing with a lot of socio-political stuff in our sessions right now. Just as a reminder, I'm Beth Miller. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'm a life coach, an energy healer, and a spiritual counselor. I am the owner of Positive Energy Holistic Counseling and Institute and also creator of the trademark model, Advanced Holistic Counseling and Coaching, which combines the best tools from traditional psychotherapy, life coaching, energy healing, science, and spirituality. And we do have our next certification course that's coming up in January. The time to apply is now. So if you're interested in doing that, please make sure you go to our website, positivecounselingli.com, or shoot me an email at institute@positivecounselingli.com. So let's see, I'm going to jump right into the material because we ran out of some time on Instagram and I want to make sure that we cover as much as we possibly can tonight. And we do have a review from last week where we were, because 2 weeks ago I taught about the art of question asking, asking transformative questions, and also how to keep your sessions from being boring. So I wanted to follow up and offer to any of you to put in the comments, how did you do with being insanely curious? Did you get under the hood a lot with your clients? Did you suspend your assumptions so that you could go deeper with the client? Did you hear your clients responding, oh, wow, yeah, that's a great question. Let me think about that. Let me pause on that. And so I welcome you to throw any comments in reaction to that and let me know if you practiced any of those skills and tools that I taught last week and how they impacted your sessions. I would love to hear about that. Or you're welcome to always just email me at institute@positivecounselingli.com as well. So this week's training topic is so timely and so needed because we're talking about landmines in session, how to turn dicey political and social topics into actual therapeutic gold for your clients and for yourself. So if you're in the United States, you're aware that we have a very big election that's coming up on November 4th. You might be from elsewhere on the planet, but you may still be aware that that election is upon us. We're also part of a global world where there are some very important wars occurring between nations, among other international and national issues. And also these issues are, of course, a part of our clients' lives, which means that they are very much a part of what happens in our therapy sessions. So today we're going to talk about how to manage the socio-political landmines and those issues that can happen in session. And we will also end by discussing some real-life counter-transferential examples and figure out what to do with them. There's a possibility that the material will not all fit in today, which means I will then continue teaching this material and get to the rest of it next Tuesday during our lives on Instagram and Facebook. So some of those real life things that can happen in session, especially ones that are counter-transferential, might be, for example, that you're a Democrat and your client is furious about how Trump is being treated in his legal cases and in the media. And she says that she hopes he stages a coup and overturns the election if he loses, right? That's very much something that could occur in any one of our sessions. Perhaps it already has occurred in yours. And you might be the Republican and the client might be the Democrat. Everyone is welcome here, so that there's no prerequisite for or assumptions about where therapists fall on the political spectrum. They might be anywhere on there. And sometimes people do assume things about our politics that may not be true. How about this for a countertransferential landmine? Your husband watches news 24/7 and constantly rails about political issues at home. And when you come to work as a therapist, your clients are doing that too. So what might that be like for you as a therapist dealing with that? What if you have close ties to Gaza or other nations that are in the Middle East that are impacted by the current wars, and your Jewish client is expressing fury against those countries? Or what if your male client says women have used abortions as birth control too frequently, and that's why it had to be taken away from them, right? So, I could go on. These things are really hard when they come up in session, and that's why we have to do a lot of training about and preparing about how to manage them. So some common socio-political issues that are presenting in our sessions, and certainly in my sessions, could be any of the following. Any of the following might come up in my sessions, meaning clients present them in sessions. Trump, Biden, Harris, Vance, transgender issues, Israel, Gaza, Ukraine, the upcoming election, the idea of stolen elections, voter rights in districts, social welfare, corporate welfare, inflation, and who's to blame, woke culture, book banning, Black Lives Matter, Blue Lives Matter, abortion, infertility, reproductive rights, the Supreme Court, Republican, Democrat, radical right, radical left, the border, immigration, COVID, vaccines. I could go on, right? That's just a little bit, just a snapshot of some of the things that are in our political environment right now that may make their way into our sessions with our clients. And so anything that you want to add into the comments about things that your clients have been talking about or things that your clients are presenting, please feel free. I welcome hearing the kind of what's happening on your end. It might be similar to some of the stuff that I experience. So clients might present these issues in several ways, right? They might talk about how stressed and anxious they are about what's going on in the world. I hear that at the beginning of many of my sessions. I'm so stressed. I'm so anxious about what's happening in the world. They may talk about how angry they are about what's happening. It may specifically be an anger reaction. A client might say, I swear to God, Beth, if this guy gets elected again, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm so freaking mad. I can't even handle it. That might be the launch 2-hour session, right? Clients may feel defeated by whatever's happening in the world, socially or politically. They might say, I'm just feeling so depleted and so exhausted by everything that's happening. I'm worried about what's happening. They might feel fear that their lives, their well-being, or the well-being of others are in jeopardy or might become in jeopardy. So a client might say to me, I'm Jewish and me and my friends are really worried about hate crimes right now. I don't even want to use my last name, right? A client might ask you about your beliefs. They might ask about your background. They might assume they know your beliefs, right? So a client might say, so as a small business owner, I'm sure you're really tired of getting killed by high taxes that you pay that are just all going to the immigrants. Right? They might assume that those are my beliefs that I share with them, or they might assume something like this, like, I see all your safe space stickers here, so I'm sure you'll agree with me about these rights for trans teens. Right? They might assume a lot about what my beliefs are, and then I have to figure out how I'm going to navigate that, right? And that's why we kind of have to prepare around these things. Clients might tell you a lot about their own political beliefs, or they might express beliefs that you do not agree with. And that might happen a lot. So why are clients bringing these issues to session? And what seems like more and more, right? But why are they bringing them to session to begin with? So first of all, the clients' lives are impacted by the social and political ecosystem that they're interfacing with in pretty significant ways. One psychology article reported that in the weeks surrounding November 2016 election, many clients came to therapy fearful and angry about what the future would bring, and then a whole other swath of clients came to session with joy, vindication, and excitement. And so the therapist is sort of navigating all of these different responses and experiences from that election. And we have another one coming up, so that might also be happening now or could happen next week. According to a March 2017 study, more than half of Americans, so 60% of Americans, were anxious because of the November 2016 election results. And half of them were looking for ways to cope with the negative environment, while 30% of them were engaging in more negative behaviors, such as drinking, smoking more often, eating unhealthily, or arguing with loved ones more frequently as a result of election-induced anxiety. So there's a couple of factors here about why clients, what's happening for them is weaving into sessions more. One is that clients have a lot of feelings about what's happening sociopolitically, about their world, and this contributes to their overall mental health. That kind of goes without saying, but it's important to say. So it contributes to their overall anxiety, depression, hopefulness, excitement, meaningfulness, stress, happiness, contentment. However it's impacting that, it's contributing to their mental health. And also the feelings that they have are then impacting the other thoughts, behaviors, and actions that they have. So they might have behaviors like coping with stress, with behaviors like increased eating, gambling, escapism, sexing, scrolling, numbing out. They might have behaviors like an increased level of hopelessness that is reducing their motivation to engage in healthy behaviors. So you might notice that the hopelessness that they're experiencing in general about their relationship with the world is then interfering with them following through on the goals that you create with them, or them going to the gym or being motivated to keep up with healthy behaviors. You might also notice that it's interfering or influencing their relationships. So they might be distancing from their social supports because they disagree with them politically. They might have arguments with family. They may not be speaking with siblings or partners or friends that were once important social connections. So they may even end up isolating more. They might also be joining groups that ally with their beliefs. This could be positive or negative, depending on what those beliefs, those groups are like, and what that's sort of tapping into in the client. They might be becoming more entrenched. They might develop more connections with people that ally with what they're thinking and feeling, and live in a little bit more of a silo. And then third, the socio-political issues and the feelings that the clients have about them might also be magnifying existing issues. So clients who already feel unsafe in the world, or are part of groups that already have a more stressful vigilance or stressful stance about safety, may be increasingly triggered right now. Jewish, Arab, people of color, immigrants, women, LGBTQ folks. And also clients who are already anxious may have a significant increase in anxiety. So clients who already have generalized anxiety disorder may get increasingly or have a magnified level of triggering by something like school shootings. And also clients who are already depressed may focus on more of the negative aspects of life because their lens is skewed towards depression, which means they may actually metabolize more of the negative social media, the negative news, and then have an increased lack of motivation, despondency, hopelessness, pessimism, and increased depression. So we can see that the socio-political environment is not only creating a lot of feelings and issues for the client, but that it also could be magnifying the mental health issues that we're already working with. And we need to know how to work with these things, and also how they might be landmines for us and could be landmines for the clients as well. So is it okay for clients to bring these issues into session? Is it okay for it to be like political stuff and social stuff to be a part of the sessions? So for starters, the therapeutic space is meant to be one free of judgment. It encourages authenticity, encourages the client being able to feel safe expressing whatever comes up for them. It allows clients to be where they're at, and it makes space for the client to also shift from where they're at as well. So yes, we should, or my opinion is that we should welcome their socio-political feelings, thoughts, beliefs, and we should also prepare for it. In fact, we should openly encourage it because we may be one of the only safe places for them to be with and express their feelings about these issues, and also for us to be able to help them see how it lines up with some of their own personal goals. And we're going to get to that later because that's really, really important. And it is not the client's responsibility to shield us as therapists from our feelings about any of these issues. In fact, our role is to tolerate and mediate our own countertransference, our own reactions, by remaining open, neutral, and curious. That can be very hard to do, and that will also be a part of this training this week or next week. So it's likely damaging, or it could be damaging to the client's emotional safety now, or their openness now, or the experiences that they have in future therapy based on whether we violate boundaries and require that they manage our feelings or think that they have to manage our feelings. Also, these issues are so charged for both clients and also for the therapist treating them that it poses a lot of landmines for us to navigate our own humanness and theirs at the same time. So my clinical opinion is this, is that we should not have like a no politics zone in session because the personal is political and the political is personal. The client's world is holistic and it cannot be entirely severed or separated. How they experience their environment is deeply impacting them. However, there is a very significant distinction that therapists can make so that the therapeutic space both benefits the client and keeps the boundaries for both the therapist and client at the same time. And this distinction is huge. So if you did bring a notebook and you want to jot this down, this might be a great thing for you to jot down because it might be something for you to think about or communicate to clients. The boundary in therapy that we can explain to the client is that therapy is not a place for political discussions, but that therapy is a place to explore how those issues affect the client. It's such an important distinction. It's not a place for political discussions, but it is a place to discuss how those issues affect the client. Right? So I use a script that sounds something like this. Honestly, it is kind of organic when I say it, and when I read it right now, it's going to not sound that organic, but I'm going to read it off to you and then ask if anybody wants me to send them this script so that they have it. Just shoot me an email at institute@positivecounselingli.com or put your email in the comments and I will shoot it out to you. So this is something that I essentially say to clients because sometimes they'll come in and they'll say, oh, I really shouldn't mention this, or I don't want to offend you, or I was going to say this, but I don't know where you stand on it. And this is what I say in response to that. I say, I absolutely welcome you to share all of your feelings about social and political issues here. Everything you think and feel is welcome here. And you do not need to be concerned about offending me or if I don't agree with you. My opinions and my experiences about social or political issues are not relevant here. However, I want to be clear that therapy is not for political discussions or debate. We're not going to be debating these issues. Rather, it's a place for you to be seen and heard, and also to discuss how social and political issues affect you and your life, right? So does that make sense to you guys? Feel free to comment, any of you. This is, for me, this is the way that I set the stage with the client, either at the beginning of therapy or during therapy when these issues get hot and start coming up, where I say, oh, you don't have to be concerned about my opinions whatsoever. Don't worry about offending me. That's not going to happen. What's important is that we discuss how this impacts you. We won't have any political discussions. It's not about that. It's about me helping to understand how this affects you, and then us taking a good look at that. Right? So that's very helpful to me. If that would be helpful to you, you can sort of take some of that. So let's get clear about what the therapist's role is when a client is talking about social or political issues, and then what the therapist's role is not. And then later in the training, when we talk about countertransferential issues, how to prepare so we know kind of what to say even before sessions come up. And then we'll also talk about what happens when we get caught off guard and we do respond, maybe in a way that's countertransferential and in a way that might even not be appropriate. Like, how do we handle that then? So we'll get to all of that probably in the next training next Tuesday, which is election day. So it'll be really, really perfect. So the therapist role in session related to socio-political issues is to listen and make space. It's to validate the client's experience and their perspective, even if you do not approve. Validation is not approval, and it's to validate what the client is experiencing and why. So, yeah, that makes sense coming from that perspective. I can see where you're coming from. You're not agreeing with them, but you're validating their experience and how they experience something. It is to be very curious, to be super non-judgmental, which we're going to talk about how to accomplish that. And it's to ask them deeper questions about what these socio and political issues mean to them, and to help them mediate the impact of these issues if it's impacting them in a more negative way, and to help them achieve their goals related to these issues as long as this is ethical. So that's an important piece too that we'll get to. So a therapist's role is not to create an agenda for the client where the client needs to be more loving, more understanding, more egalitarian, more compassionate, unless that happens to be one of the client's agenda items, is to become that way. It's not to convince the client, describe, explain, or try to sway the client of any belief or value. It's not to change the client's beliefs or values in any way. It's not to help the client see it from your point of view or how other people might look at it. It's not to explain why things are the way that they are. It's not to talk about your own beliefs, for sure. Do not talk about your own beliefs. It's not to defend any positions. It's not to disclose whom you're voting for or for them to do the same unless they desire to. And it's not to ally with the client. So we could do this overtly or covertly, the allying, so I want to point it out. It's not to ally, meaning like, nodding like, yep, I hear you. Yeah, I hope she doesn't get voted in or hope he doesn't get voted in. And it's also not to covertly ally, like rolling your eyes or nodding when they say something so that you're covertly letting them know that you're on the same team, because that changes the therapeutic relationship. That interferes with the neutrality of the therapeutic relationship. And it's not to respond defensively or to be closed off in any way. So how should you respond when when clients bring these issues into session? We're going to get to maybe 3 or 4 of these, and then I have sort of a very significant training about how to respond that we'll have to do next time, but let's get to what we can before we end today. So respond thoughtfully, do not react. So we're looking for responding, not reacting. Being curious, curiosity is the way. The more you ask questions, the less you will become triggered yourself. So if you get curious and you're committed to curiosity, it is going to keep you in a really good therapeutic lane that will serve your client well and will serve you well as also. Do not respond. Don't sort of be the blinking therapist that hears the client say something and then just says nothing as their way of reacting, because it is really the same as reacting out loud. Just the blinking quiet therapist that doesn't respond at all, that could be read as judgment, as disapproval, as detachment, as shaming the client. So that may not be an appropriate response. But do things like this. Ask, tell me more about what's important to you about this issue. Bring me into your worldview so that I can understand what it's like to be you. Would it be okay if I asked how these issues affect you? Would you be willing to explore more about this issue with me? How do these issues affect you on a daily basis? How has your position on this affected your life, your relationships, your work, your recreation, your fun? Would you like to brainstorm ways to cope with stress and reduce the stress that these issues seem to be creating for you? Would you be interested in seeing this experience from a 360-degree view? Would you like to look at it from other angles? If not, that's okay. I just want to offer. Right? So those are just the beginning, just the tip of the iceberg of some of the questions that we can lead with great curiosity, so that we can really let the client know that they're welcome to talk about this and we want to understand them deeply. So next Tuesday, when we do the follow-up of the Instagram at 7:30 and Facebook at 8 o'clock, we're going to do part 2 of these landmines and sessions, how to turn these socio-political issues, these dicey things, into therapeutic gold. We're going to be talking about how to see what's happening in session as a microcosm for the client, how to model behaviors for the client. We're going to be talking about seeing everything as a potential clinical issue so that you can turn things into therapeutic gold. And I'm going to give you very specific examples about how to do that. We're also going to talk about dicey, difficult, countertransferential issues and how you can respond to those. So we have a lot of great training that's ready to go for next week, and I hope you'll join me. Until then, I wish you a very wonderful and peaceful week, and I invite you to do a practice assignment this week, which would be one, to consider using a script like the one that I use, or something similar, in order to let the client know that it is a welcome space for them to talk about these things, but that there is a distinction between having political discussions versus talking about how the political and social issues affect them. And I also welcome you to be very curious and ask a lot of questions. You're going to notice that that is a repeating theme for me as a therapist that trains other therapists, because I believe that this significantly increases a therapist's clinical skills. So I welcome you also to email me at institute@positivecounselingli.com. Also, you could visit our website if you're interested in the certification in advanced holistic counseling. We are taking applications now for the training that starts in January with me. It's a 9-month intensive, and it is pretty awesome. So have a wonderful week. I hope you have a really fabulous week filled with great therapy with your clients, and I look forward